Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shola's Mentorship Blueprint Podcast, a space where we talk about empowering minds and shaping leaders. I remain your host, Olushola Odubanjo. As this year comes to an end, I want to invite you into a different kind of conversation. Not the loud, motivational, you smashed it conversation. Not the guilt-driven, you should have done more conversation either, but an honest one. Because this time of the year has a way of making us reflect. Sometimes proud, sometimes uncomfortable. We look back and ask ourselves, what did I really build this year? What did I repeat? What did I avoid questioning? And one word always show up in this reflection: consistency. We celebrate it, we preach it, we post about it. But tonight, I want to challenge it. We praise consistency, but rarely define it. Consistency has become one of the most overused words in personal development. People say just be consistent. Consistency is key. Consistency beats motivation. But no one ever pauses to ask, consistent in what? Consistent towards where? Consistent for who? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can be consistent and still be stuck. Yes, you heard me right. You can be consistent and still be stuck. You can show up every day and still be misaligned. You can be disciplined and still be on the wrong path. And yet, we rarely question it because consistency sounds virtuous. It feels safe. It feels responsible. But consistency without reflection can quietly turn into comfortable stagnation. Now, let's talk about when consistency becomes a disguise for fear. Now, let's dive into this. Sometimes we stay consistent, not because it's right, but because it's familiar. Because changing direction will mean admitting that we've been pouring energy into what it's not working. Consistency can become a disguise for fear. Fear of starting again, fear of being misunderstood, fear of letting go of an identity that once made sense. So we stay busy, we stay active, we stay exhausted, but we don't ask the most important question: is this still my lane? Because stopping to ask that question requires courage. It requires honesty. And sometimes it requires grieving what we thought would work. The power of the pause. Let me say this clearly. Pausing does not mean quitting. Reflecting does not mean failing. In fact, pausing can be one of the most productive decisions you make. A pause allows you to realign your values, evaluate your direction. Nature pauses, seasons change. Growth is not constant, but it's intentional. So why do we expect ourselves to keep moving without questioning direction? As this year ends, maybe the bravest thing you can do is not to push harder, but to pause and ask, what drained me this year? What quietly grew me? What did I stay consistent in without results? Now, let's talk about this. Your lane is not crowded. It's yours. Here's the truth most people forget. You cannot be unproductive when you are in your own lane. Your lane is unique. It's unique. It's different to others. Your calling is specific. Your assignments cannot be duplicated. And when you're aligned, productivity doesn't always look fast. It looks faithful. It looks like unseen growth. It looks like preparation before exposure. Comparison makes you abandon your lane. And that's what we see all the time. Pressure makes us speed up when we should be refining. But when you stay true to your lane, when you stay true to your calling, your consistency becomes meaningful. It begins to flourish in ways that others can see, not to copy, but to be inspired by. Let's talk about a different definition of consistency. Let's redefine it. Consistency is not repeating what no longer serves you or staying loyal to routines that drain your spirit. Being busy without being aligned. Real consistency is faithfulness to purpose, commitment to growth, and obedience to clarity, even when it requires change. Sometimes consistency looks like continuing the same thing. Sometimes it looks like redirecting, and both requires discipline. It actually requires discipline. If you know your lane, if you stay in your lane, if you stay to your calling, you will definitely be disciplined. Now, end of year reflection questions. As this year comes to an end, I want to leave you with a few questions, not answers, where I would like you to go back and reflect. It is, where have I been consistent but not fulfilled? Reflect on that. What lane am I truly called to flourish in? Don't look at others. Focus on your lane. What do I need to stop repeating before I step into the next year? If you don't do that, you're going to repeat the same thing you've done throughout this year. Am I aligned or just active? Sit with these questions. Don't rush them. Take your time. It could take hours. It could take days. Clarity comes to those willing to listen. As we step into a new year, don't commit to being consistent. Commit to being aligned. Commit to staying in your lane, even when it's quiet, slow, or misunderstood. Because when consistency meets purpose, growth becomes inevitable. And when you flourish in your lane, others won't just watch, they will learn from it. Thank you for listening. But before I bring this episode to an end, to everyone who has supported this podcast throughout the year, whether you listened, shared an episode, left a comment, or simply sat with the conversations, thank you. Your engagement, your messages, and your presence have meant more than you know. This brings our 2025 podcast season to an end. I'm deeply grateful for the journey we've shared this year, and I look forward to continuing with the conversation with you in 2026. Until then, reflect well, choose wisely, stay aligned, stay intentional, step forward with clarity, and take care of yourself. Goodbye. God bless.